All right, everybody, welcome back to Founders Corner. Today I have Amara, and she is a big believer in community and ecosystem, and I just had to have her on the podcast so we can talk about what it's like to be a founder, first of all, and then secondly, how you can get involved with the ecosystem and what the faults of ecosystems are and what the good things are. So, Amara, welcome.
Thank you.
Very excited to have this conversation with you.
Myself as well.
Because you and I have had, I think, 2 or 3 conversations now where both of us have gotten so passionate when we talk about community. So I was like, this is going to be a good conversation.
Absolutely.
Regardless.
Yeah.
So why don't you give us a little background on who you are, why you're where you are. Just give us your brief overview.
Brief overview. Do we want 1 pages or do we want the book?
Let's do 1 page and then expand on the books.
Sure. I am the elected CEO of EasyVC. It's a tech startup, scale-up, somewhat of a hybrid. We're uniquely positioned right now. And it's an investment community that really reduces the friction between founders looking to raise capital with a network of serious and vetted investors. Founders always have troubles with raising capital, not knowing where to go, where to be in the right places where investors are, and navigating that whole raising capital journey.
Right.
And so we really address that and support them along the way.
Cool. And how did you get into that?
So interesting enough, I actually was on the pre-med journey.
Wow.
Yes,
I
wanted to be a doctor. Yeah.
Okay, that's different.
Yeah.
I've honestly never heard of that one.
It is. I wanted to be a doctor since I was 8. I started off in engineering at the
It was
local
no pressure
university.
from parents? My parents are immigrants, so my pressure was engineering or a doctor. Yeah, accountant, really? Okay, that.
No, but I'm saying
yeah.
for the
It's
rest
the
of
standard
us,
stuff, right?
It's the standard. Kind of. It was a little bit of pressure, but the time commitment that being a doctor took was
tough.
really intimidating.
Yeah.
10 to 15 years, depending on your specialty.
Yes.
And heads down, nose in the books. That was... So anyway, we did engineering. My brain's not wired that way.
Yeah.
So switched into pre-med, and I was dead set on it. But where I started questioning that path was, do I want to make my impact, my mark, impacting 300 to 500 patients a year, one-on-one?
Right.
Metaphorically putting that Band-Aid on that boo-boo, if you will. And it wasn't enough. It wasn't hitting the spot for me. And so I had the opportunity to work at Canadian Wealth, another company of EasyVC, business solutions provider, helps established businesses as well as startups. And that was my foray into the business and entrepreneurial world. And it was just, it was jumping off, huge light bulb moment. This is where millions of lives get touched.
Yes.
Right, is in the venture capital space.
Yeah.
And it took me a while to transition. Yeah. A few tears were dropped.
Yeah, 100%.
But
you're lucky it was only a few tears.
Over the course of 6 months, so it was a rough patch there. Yeah. It was like a quarter life crisis, but it worked out. I'm here now. I'm so thankful to have this opportunity and to be working with such amazing set of people and skills and minds.
So it's actually interesting. You say 6 months, and you went between how many up and downs?
There were a lot. It was focused. It was conscious up and downs, by the way. It wasn't, I'm just going to let, whatever happened to me happen.
Yeah, you can't do that.
You can't, especially with such a pivot. It was 180 degrees of a pivot.
Right.
So very focused. I was like, I need to be okay with the decision pivot I'm making here. Otherwise, I'll never be happy with myself.
So when you were building out that 6 months, I mean, I'll tell you my honest, how I felt when I was in my first 6 months.
What was your pivot?
Well, it wasn't a pivot per se. It was just when I first started, I mean, you feel very alone, right? And you genuinely, I don't know why this is a thing. And almost every founder I've talked to, this is what you get on a regular basis. It's, I feel this. And it's very lonely. It's very by yourself. No one else is feeling this way. I'm feeling this way. And it's funny, you look at social media, right? And people are faking being on a private plane just to portray that thing. And we see, and entrepreneurs, they follow different kind of accounts. And the accounts we follow are I'm an entrepreneur. I did this and I made 6 figures and I did this, right? And we watch these videos and we're like, why am I not there? Why
Yeah.
am I not feeling that?
Yeah.
Right? And we feel very lonely in that sense. And when you and I were talking, I loved what you were trying to build, right? An ecosystem in which entrepreneurs don't have to feel alone, right? So tell me what brought you into that mindset.
Working with founders and established business owners really made me, first of all, I was down in the mud with them.
Yes.
I was knee deep in whatever they were trying to achieve, either launching or just trying to break the ceiling of stagnancy that they were facing. And seeing how disjointed and waywardly supportive that the ecosystem could be to these individuals was really unfortunate. Because there's very well-meaning individuals in the space that want to support and help, but it's hard to find them, right?
Yeah.
Either they don't want to put themselves out there because they already have their own portfolio or clients that they're hands-on with, busy with, or they're just not making enough noise.
Right.
And so for me, seeing that, how can I be a part of the change? How can I be a part of the support? To actually have genuine individuals at the forefront trying to make that difference and gap those questions to the answers that they're looking for in a way that actually forwardly moves the business owners and the founders. Because there's a lot of noise.
I love that you said that. It's being very proactive about what can help you move forward.
Yes, rather than trying to address. Okay, so I believe that the ecosystem, it's
right.
kind of like a washing machine.
By the way, now you're going to get the real version. Here we go. I'm excited.
Okay.
Buckle up. All right, let's go.
So the ecosystem, there are places in peace that need to be there.
Yes.
You got to keep the founders engaged with their project as well as with the ecosystem.
And the community.
Yeah. Because again, that lowliness, just having that support as well, that other people are doing what you're doing at least.
So I agree. And that's the best case scenario, what
yes.
you're expressing.
Yes.
I haven't seen a community that works that well like that.
No. Well, yeah, we were talking about that offline. There's micro communities,
Yes.
ecosystems that organizations have built around themselves, and it's not bleeding into the overall of the ecosystem, which is a major problem. What have you noticed in the space that could be done better?
So I actually love that question.
Yeah.
And the reason I love that question is because I've seen so many different communities do so many different things. So there's obviously the community like funded by the city, bring as much tech as you possibly can to the city and bring talent to the city so that the ecosystem of startups grows. That to me is a long-term plan. Because it'll take years to attract, because what they have to do is they have to bring in the big guys. The big guys bring the talent, right? Assuming, right? And they bring the talent, and then when the talent is here, they might click with someone else in the business ecosystem, and then they might eventually like do a spin-off of their own business. Okay, so you're talking 3-5 years when you bring someone, a company. The problem is that they give incentives to those companies to come.
Yes.
Right? And essentially when they come in, they are quite literally stealing from the current ecosystem. So I'm a startup. I have 5 developers. I may not be in a situation where I can really afford all of them. I need to keep them excited on the vision, the plan, the excitement,
you have a business
stock options. But a business comes and they do mass hiring. And all of a sudden, those developers' value is now tremendously higher.
Right.
Because they could theoretically drop the being a startup with you and go work for $120,000, $150,000. So, are you really helping startups? No, definitely not in the near term. Maybe in the long term. Right. Yeah. Secondly, I think environment is a huge part of an ecosystem for each city. Right? Austin, why is that thriving? Right? It's an ecosystem of like, you want to be in that city. It's an exciting city. It's a warm city. It's a city where, there's a higher middle class. So it's a beautiful city where it's clean. It's low traffic, right? If you compare all those environments, that becomes super exciting for tech workers to go there and start seeking out work.
Yeah.
Right. So there's that approach. Not that one you can't really control. Right. And then the third one is having a really strong ecosystem. Okay. And that goes back to Seattle, San Francisco, Boston, New York. Right. Where you're talking about having an ecosystem so strong that I don't care how expensive the city is and how bad the city is and how gross the city is, San Francisco. I don't care about the environment. New York, it's cold there. Like, I mean,
not
it's
as cold
great.
as here, but
not
it
as
does
cold
get
as here,
cold,
but it does get cold, right? But you go to New York because there's so much opportunities there inside the ecosystem, right? But those are years in the building, right? So I think having a mesh of all those things, right? Where instead of having the city focus heavily on incentivizing big tech companies to come here, incentivizing the actual startups, right? And trying to grow. I know Calgary, for example, they did an incentive program where they were giving out, I think it was like a couple million, for sure, like above 10 million. I don't know what the exact amount was, but it was designed around how are you going to bring jobs to the city of Calgary? And I will give you money to support that effort. The problem is it kind of got political. And that's the other problem with city and municipality, right? When you're dealing with city government, you're also dealing with politics. Yeah. So, for example, I'm not going to name names. This company got $1 million from the city of Calgary to start something up. And the best they can show for is they brought, people from India.
Interesting.
Supplemented San Francisco's capacity requirements.
Okay.
So it did nothing for Calgary, aside from bringing more tax-generated revenue for the city. And in what way? Because Calgary is not getting the payroll taxes. So anyways, the point is I don't know what that looks like, but I can honestly tell you I haven't seen one that works well. Aside from the big ones, right? That's my biggest thing is like when you're building an ecosystem, and especially with communities, you're almost telling startups like, I'm not even going to look at you. You don't even matter until you matter.
That is resounding within the ecosystem. Yeah. And so that was where I want to actually go back to was that's what they're told. Yeah. And it's a washing machine of just get in the ecosystem, fill your first business, or go through all the incubators and accelerators that you can.
Come to our events.
Come to our events, learn as much as you can.
Because we need seats in the, that's the only way we can justify it. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And go through all of that, and then maybe when you're ready, right? Yeah. The maybe when you're ready, you can either start your own business or now your second business, second startup, or you're still on your first and you're still here. Great. Yep. Now you're almost worth looking at. Yes. But then there comes the metrics. There comes the who do you know as well. Like VCs only want to communicate with startups that are warmly introduced to them.
Warmly introduced or second-time founders.
Or second-time founders. Yep. Or they have amazing metrics.
Successful second-time founders.
Is that what you found? Because I heard even if you failed your first.
They might, if you have a really good product and good timing.
Fair.
And you got a good team behind you and they like the team, then yes. But successful ones, they won't even blink an eye. If you have an idea and you've been a successful exit, like I'm talking a successful, like 100 up, 100 mil up.
Right. They'll write you a check.
They'll write you a check.
Pretty quickly.
Yeah. Like they'll be fighting for your deal.
Yeah. But that's exactly it is. We have this current ecosystem that's not, I don't want to call it ecosystem. And these are the mechanisms that are currently at play, and it's just not working because we don't have enough volume. We don't have enough tech founders. We don't have enough people. There's lots of ideas. Ideas are not completely spoken for. We have enough money as well. Yeah. Enough money, but it's the volume of people that we don't have. Right. Being Canada, but then also we're not as far along as Toronto. And so what can we do about that?
You should see the States.
Let's not go there.
Oh my God. The money flow that happens in States, it's contradictory to everything you just said. There's so much money and there's so much founders and the revolving door that it is down there. And it's funny because every time we meet a startup here, like in Canada, we'll talk to them and we'll say, what are you doing here? Go to the States.
You encourage them to go to the States.
I encourage them to go to the States. We went to the States.
Right.
I'll tell you my very first experience.
Okay.
So our very first experience, we were trying to raise money. Okay. I could not raise a dime for the life of me.
In Canada.
Oh, yeah. Because we were at MVP stage, right? We were just starting to sell it, right? We didn't have the metrics to show for. The team is inexperienced in their minds, right? We had grit. Apparently no one measures that though, but like, you know what I mean? And so we tried raising here. We raised with family and friends. I raised 200K Canadian, okay, with family and friends. That's impressive.
That's great. It's a good start.
It was a great start, except when I went to Austin one time and I went to one event and I told them about the product, they were literally like, so why you? And I explained why me.
Right.
And they were like, yeah, I would probably have started you off with 300K with one investor, one angel investor, right? They're willing to take risks significantly more down in the States than they are here. And let me explain why. And I've built a formula around why they do.
Okay, let's hear it.
There is significantly more money flow that happens in the States than it does in Canada. Okay? A Canadian investor, on average, will get a return in 9 years, if they get a return.
Yeah, 7 to 10 years.
7 to 10 years, right? Yeah. And I'll go with a pessimistic view of 9 years, okay? In the US, it's 3 to 5 years, right? So think about that. I invest 100K with you in the States. I will probably get my money in return. Let's be honest, they play the money, the probability game, right? Yeah. They invest in 10, they're hoping 1, 6 of them will die, 4 of them, or 3 of them will be zombies, 1 will actually work.
They do, yeah.
Yeah. So they'll look at it and say, okay, if you hit, you're going to hit in 3 to 5 years for me. So a hit is usually 15 times, 20 times your money back, right? So because they're dealing with much larger volumes down there. So an American investor, let's say 3 years and 9 years for Canadians, gets their return 3 times before a Canadian gets his 1. So you can't blame the Canadian investor for being so conservative.
Founders need to hear that.
I know. And I tell every founder that, right? Because they're like sitting there going, why does Canadian investors not give me money? Why are they giving me 100, 200, 300K?
Should I be moving down to the States?
Yeah. Yes. If your goal is to scale and grow that fast, yes, you should be moving down to the States. What are you doing here? The investor cannot look at you in that perspective of, I will get my return in 3 years. That's not possible. That's just not what statistics have told them, right? So when you deal with angels are the worst. Like, that's why Canadian angels, they only put in like 50K because they have to diversify their money, right? So an American will have 300K to dedicate because in 3 years, it's either burnt or they've made their money back. So they have a lot more money to work with. And a Canadian investor is waiting still in that 9-year term, hoping to God one of them will hit.
It's a way longer timeline.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm being, optimistic / pessimistic, right? But that's the challenge, I think, with Canadians versus the Americans is just more people down there, more deals to be had down there. So there's
and they've been doing it for longer.
And there's just more money flow. And I think the key is money flow.
Money flow. The money isn't flowing in Canada as much as we'd like it to, but it's sitting there.
It is sitting there.
It's just on ice, and they're waiting.
They're conservative.
They're conservative as well.
I call it stale money in Canada.
Stale money.
Toronto's gotten better, but Toronto is trying to be New York. Like they try too hard to be New York.
What does too hard mean?
So like, I don't know. You've been to Toronto, right? I love
not
Toronto.
for business.
I love Toronto. Toronto is one of my favorite cities. Would I move there? Absolutely not. But I love the city, and Toronto is the closest thing you're gonna get to a New York in Canada.
That's true.
So the problem is, you got all the banks there. It becomes it's Canadian Wall Street, whatever. But they start acting like New Yorkers.
Oh, have they? Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
So they're kind of like, play big, but they don't actually play big. So they'll, like for example, New York, we've dealt with startups in New York that can easily get $1 million. If you're in the financial sector of a startup, they get excited. Like, yeah, fintech, like New Yorkers are like very excited about that. So they'll throw like $1 million at it, right? Whereas a Canadian, they'll be like, I'm flexing right now. Here's 200K. You're welcome. You know what I mean? To them, 200K is big money.
Right.
Right? So they try too hard to compete against like a city like New York. Whereas in my opinion, they just need to build their own little niche thing. Because we have plenty of Canadian businesses that are successful.
Yeah, it's another conversation, isn't it?
And we're very good at being bootstrap in Canada.
We are, because of the
money flow.
Yeah,
I'm gonna always come back to money flow.
Money flow. Again, it's there. It's just, I think, so the big money, the institutional money, they're looking to see for more talent, for the talent to develop, for the maturity to develop, because the business maturity isn't quite where it needs to be for any of these businesses to get that amount of money.
Yeah.
Right. When we have these Skip the Dishes founders, going back into Neo and doing what they're doing, it's the money is there clearly.
Yes.
Right. The support is there, but the support that the founders need as first-time founders, as they're going through their first enterprise, is it's lacking.
Yeah, I was gonna say non-existent.
Non-existent.
And it's not because of the community's fault. To be honest with you, most entrepreneurs do feel alone just because they're alone.
That's the game that we're playing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the question is, like, how do you get entrepreneurs to get feeling comfortable to get into those communities? What have you seen work? Like, I'm pessimistic because, like, I come from a pessimistic perspective.
Sure, yeah.
Because I was one of them.
Yeah.
It's again, I will always tell this to anybody I talk to when we do our workshops. You were at our workshop.
Yes.
How brutally honest was I? It's a lonely line of work. It's a struggle. There's a ton more winters than you would get on a normal basis, like in terms of life, right? Your peaks and valleys are incredibly fast, where you're like, oh my God, I'm so excited. A month later, that's ruined.
I was going to say a day later, you get hit with news. Yeah.
Yeah, a day later, right? Yeah. So what do you suggest, like, as a founder, first-time founder, what do you think is the first step they need to take to get involved in the community properly?
So for first-time founders, as much as I didn't like when other people said this, it holds true still, which is get engaged with the ecosystem, the community. You should attend those events.
Yeah. You
should go to maybe an incubator accelerator. But the caveat is, do some asking around, do your research as to which ones are actually valuable.
Oh my God. I went to one event. I'm sorry, I have to tell this story. Okay. I went to an event. It was 3 big guys that were involved. And it was supposed to be about UI, UX.
Okay.
And product design.
Right.
Okay. So you've been to my workshop. I'm all about giving value. To me,
value first.
To me, you come to the workshop, you walk away with something. Like that's my desire, is that you walk away as a founder with something to like work on, develop, whatever it is. So I go into this event. First of all, everybody's closed off. No one's talking to nobody.
That's
right?
Technical people for you.
I don't know, but this is design, right? So my assumption is like,
more creative.
Creative founders, whatever.
Okay.
So they're sitting there and they're talking about their role and what the importance of design is. That was the point of the workshop, or not the workshop, sorry, the seminar, whatever you want to call it. I walk in, we sit down, and I'm excited. I'm excited to see what their perspective is. Instead of talking to me about their perspective, they just talked about their job. I can honestly tell you, I got off and left in like within 10, 15 minutes.
Right.
There was zero value. Because again, this was put on by a community that's supposed to help startup. Okay, I don't want to mention names, but that was the point. They brought on these guys to help them and guide them. That's the title of the event, is to help you understand what product design is.
Yeah.
And they just walked in and they're like, yeah, we have a team of 50 designers. you're not helpful to me whatsoever. You have no value to give to me. You're not talking about a startup. You're talking about a big company, right? I'm not even there. Do you think I can hire 50 designers? You have zero value to me. And I think that's what happens is they bring on these big companies because they have reputation.
Yeah.
Those reputations are not a good thing. I'd rather bring 3 guys that have failed and to talk about their failure of the product design and what caused it. Sorry. That was just my side rant.
That's the exact thing is, how do you navigate all these events, all these initiatives that are happening in the ecosystem and align it with the industry that you're in first and foremost, where you're trying to be, and if they're relevant to you at all. Now, some organizations, they constantly are putting out events, so maybe do, you know, a little DD, what's their track record, what kind of events have they held in the past and is relevant to you.
Shameless plug, we do that workshop every month.
All right.
Virtually, so.
Great.
Yeah.
Asynchronous.
You can talk, yeah, you could talk about it. You were at the event. Was that good?
I appreciate it because there was a lot of question marks in the room as people, and it gave them a proper dose of what to expect.
Good. That was the point of it. So perfect. I'm happy with that. All right.
That was my take.
Shameless plug. Sorry,
Shameless
I had
plug.
to.
And so that can be a little bit tough for startups to navigate. The second thing I would recommend is getting a mentor if you can. It's not easy, especially with the volume, volume that we have in the city.
So what would you suggest as like a founder that wants to find a mentor? Because I don't think it's easy to find a mentor. Like I, to this day, am like looking for a mentor, but it's like you have to respect them as well.
Yes.
And for my mentality, it's kind of funny. My clients always tell me I don't act like a typical Canadian because I'm very like gun ho. Like I don't, you know what I mean? Like I'm too honest is what they say.
Some people appreciate that.
I know. Thank you. But
yes,
Canadians
I
are like
appreciate that.
sneaky, not like, you know what I mean?
Passive aggressive.
Passive aggressive. That's the word.
Yeah.
Like, so they kind of consider me a little bit more American because I'm also like very like gun ho. Like I don't
mince words.
No, actually, probably a little too much. But like one thing I do is I'm always out there and I'm like working 10 hours, 12 hours.
Okay, great.
Canadians do not do that, and typical Canadians. And I push my team very hard. Whereas like I know, like I've worked with other startups and they really, really don't. Like it's very like no work-life balance, and I appreciate that. I'm with it.
You can't have work-life balance in a startup.
Thank you. Yes.
You cannot. I'm currently actually looking for co-founders.
Yeah.
It's just me right now. I'm looking for 1 to 2 other people, and it's posed to be quite the challenge because it's a balance of skill set and background, understanding and knowledge. We want someone that's already been in the ecosystem, seen a bit of that. The learning curve is steep nonetheless, but
what are you looking for in your founder? This is so sidetracked right now,
no,
but
this
that's
is great.
I like it.
We're looking for, so we're unique because we're going to be able to write checks for our staff very soon. We're opening a financing round. Checks will be written at least, by second quarter.
To startups or to us,
employees? To the employees. To me as the founder as well. I'm not getting paid.
Yeah.
And so
I don't even know what getting paid feels like.
It's with apples at your table, and
as long as there's food and a shelter, that's me getting paid.
That too. So we're looking for the typical runway, right, for startups to even get paid is a year to 2 years. You're not going to see a dime back.
18 months.
On average.
Yeah.
And so we're telling the co-founders that we're looking for, look, it's not the typical. It's kind of a hybrid between a startup and a scale-up because it's been established, and that's kind of a backstory. But we're spinning off from the mother company as our own living, breathing entity.
Okay.
And so this is where that hybrid comes in. Product market fit has been validated. We have current users.
Right.
Everything is set up. The tech is there. It's fully functional. We just need to sell, get out there, go wide.
Gotcha.
And so we're telling these co-founders that, but it's like sharks in water that smell blood.
Yeah.
I don't have to experience the 1 to 2 year of not getting a check. I can get money very soon.
Yeah.
Sign me up.
Yeah.
And that's not the foundation we want to build our co-founding team on. Do you want to be here? Do you want to be vested in this space and actually contribute to the other startups that are making their mark and making their impact?
Yeah.
Right?
Totally.
And so it's been hard to sift through that,
Yeah.
the noise of I'm hungry to be here either for the money or for the right reasons.
Yeah.
And so what were
I
we
always say hire slow, fire quickly.
Yes, I heard you say that in
We
your
were talking about
podcast.
mentorships.
Mentorship.
So
Yes.
I'm really big on mentorships because
Absolutely.
I don't know how to approach them.
Okay, so I have some. I can say.
So
I
yeah,
can shed
help
some
me,
light on that.
like as if you're helping me right now, because
Sure.
I'm genuinely, when it comes to me, and I think a lot of founders feel this way,
Yeah.
is we don't think we're special.
Are you sure?
I appreciate you saying that, but look,
Well, I'm not saying that about you.
No, but like
There's-
I don't feel like I'm anything special that I can just go and reach out to. Like there's
Okay, I
there's
see what you mean.
there's the guys. I call whatever. There's those guys that are very comfortable with rejection. I'm not.
I hear
That's
you.
just me personally.
Bit of an ego. We're in the same boat.
I don't know if I have ego. I have lack of ego, I would say. Because if I had ego, I would have the confidence to go do it.
If you had ego, you wouldn't want to hurt it.
Oh, good point. Maybe I have a little ego.
It's the reverse.
Okay,
Yeah.
so how would you approach it?
So I've actually asked this question. There was a VC 101 workshop that happened last week, Thursday. Panache from Patrick Lure was hosting it. Actually, by Omi, she organized it.
Yeah.
And I asked him a similar question. How would you approach not necessarily mentors, but investors and build that relationship? And in this industry, it's all about building relationships,
Right.
whether you're a founder, investor, a facilitator.
Right.
And what I've been collecting, this is my tally sheet, if you will, is do not approach investors or someone that is further along where you want to be with, you're so knowledgeable. You have all this experience. Tell me what you know. That's not the bottom line. Don't approach with that.
Okay.
Lead with, I know something about my space and my industry. How can I help you do your job better? What can I bring to the table, and how can I bring value to you?
Never thought of it that way.
And it's, when you think about it that way, it's
Well, that's
no
smart
shit.
selling. Yeah.
Sorry,
no,
but
that's literally true. Yeah.
it's that simple. And I myself have a mentor. He's been amazing. Alex has been great. He's really shown me the ropes about being a CEO in the venture capital space and et cetera, et cetera. And for him, he says the same thing. And it's not just what can I get out of you, right? You've really got to get that mindset out. It's how can I add value to your life and what you do.
That's so interesting. I've never thought of it that way.
And when you switch that mindset, you're like, do I have much to show?
So one of the guys I really respect and love, and he's actually Canadian, is Dan Martell.
Okay.
Have you ever heard of him?
No, sorry.
No, that's okay. He's very niche in what he does. His videos are unbelievable. I would say my entire model of content and things like that is based on him.
Okay.
I've taken his course. He's incredible. Like that's probably one guy I would say I respect. And in that respect, I would love for him to be my mentor.
Right.
But he charges for like coaching. And he does this stuff. And I'm kind of sitting there going, like, to your point, how can I possibly add value to this guy
Yes.
who's, you know, there probably may be some value I can probably help with, but otherwise, like how, like he's set, like he's like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
How would you approach something like that? Like that's a really bad example because he's famous, so it doesn't help.
Yeah, because you're gonna have to pay for
Because
coaching.
I'm sure like he
regardless.
gets approached on a regular basis. But yeah, like how do you suggest that? Because there's guys that I can think of that I would approach to talk to,
Right.
but I wouldn't say they, like, thinking about them makes me think I want to push myself to be as good as them.
They're not as motivating as you'd
Yeah,
like a mentor
and I
to
feel
be.
like that's what a mentor should be. It's like a guidance. It's your Yoda, right? I want to be Yoda, and I want to listen to Yoda.
Yes.
Whereas, like, there's a lot of guys where I'm like, yeah, you just don't excite me that way.
Yeah. I think that's hard because are you in the same spaces that they're in, right? And how much overlap
True.
is there? And the other thing, so I do want to speak to the founder still, which is you could either pay for courses or pay for coaching for an hour, and they'll charge you $5,000, $10,000 an hour, depending how
Oh my god.
well known they are.
That would be devastating. It does get pricey. I agree with you.
It
Like
does.
especially like little bigger courses, like famous ones. You're paying for the name.
Yeah, but no, but
I
there's
guarantee
literally
you can find it online.
there's really a well-known coach, and he's that actually charges $5,000 an hour.
You have to be doing well to get that.
Yeah.
He's probably more of a strategist than a coach. Because why the hell would I pay that much for a coach? I'm sorry, for a mentor.
That's the thing, though. Are you a strategist because you actually have something that's slightly different? You can see, you can envision,
visualize it. Yeah.
You can visualize, or have you just failed so many times in your life?
You know exactly what not to do.
Exactly, and it's a fine line, right? Because that's the difference between a strategist and a coach. That's what I'm saying.
Good point. That's actually a very good point.
What if you have a
strategist has to see it? A coach has experienced it. That's actually a very good distinction.
And so, what is your business
like
in e-com, and you can get a coach in that case. But is your business model so unique? And you need to scale to the point where I need eyes, I need vision, I need an eagle to be advising me. Then you get a strategist.
I love that. That's actually a really good approach.
Major difference.
Yeah,
major difference. Huge.
Vision, I would say for the strategist, in my opinion, worth the $5,000.
Yes.
Coach, maybe a couple $100 an hour. I would not go beyond that.
Yeah.
I would need really good insight.
You could just Google enough, and then you could find the same advice, honestly.
Yeah.
But corporate strategists, that's why they're not really in the startup space, is because they get enough bills to be working in corporate.
Yeah.
They're getting paid very well, compensated very well. But so founder mentality is, don't go in just wanting to extract information and then not apply it at all either. That is the worst thing for a mentor, not a coach, a mentor to get is, I'm giving you all this advice, all this knowledge, my personal experiences. And time.
Time is critical.
And you're not taking notes, which is always odd. Alex is a mentor of sorts and a coach as well and a strategist, like a legitimate one, by the way. And
I got to meet this Alex.
You have to. You really should. And he's had people where they don't take notes. And it's like, where's that information going? Yeah. You're paying for this session, and you're paying for this session, and you're not taking notes. Where is it going? And he gives them homework, right? Nice. A good mentor will give you something to take back with, and 100%. Is looking forward to see your development in that 100%. In that piece.
They have an emotional connection with you, right?
They want to know who you are, what's your life story, and that's where they get fulfillment.
And I think that's the sell, is you finding someone and being like, look, here's my situation. Being totally honest. Here's my situation. Here's why I love what you do.
Yeah.
Because you have to do your research. You can't just go in there and be like, I want a mentor and just go name drop.
No.
You have to have a purpose. And I think with it going, look, I would love to provide you value. Here's what I'm really good at. Otherwise, I would love to just see if you would be willing to meet with me once a month as a mentor.
Yeah.
And you'd be surprised how many people would say yes. I don't know because I don't do it. But again, like, I've heard good things about that, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Displaying that or at least having a track record where you've had failures in your life and you've overcome them and you've surpassed your expectations is a key indicator for coaches, mentors as well. Sorry.
Okay. I love that. I'm gonna put a pin on the mentorship.
Okay.
Because I actually love that topic.
Okay.
And I think that's gonna be our next topic.
Sure.
And next time, let's get Alex in.
Oh wow.
And what I'm gonna promise to everybody, to all my founders, is I'm going to go between me and you meeting again for this podcast.
All right.
I'm going to go and find myself a mentor.
Wow.
I'm gonna commit to that.
Okay.
I love what you said.
I love it.
I think what you have said is true. I've always thought about the mentor thing. I've always been scared. Ego or not ego, I don't care what it is, but I've just been hesitant. I'm gonna take that commitment. After today, I'm gonna do it. So I'm gonna find a mentor, and then you, me, and Alex are gonna have a sit down, and I'm gonna tell you about my experience of finding a mentor and how it was.
Okay.
So that will be a good conversation.
That will be.
Okay.
Alex has a lot to say about the space and
it.
what he does too. And
I love it. I promise I won't go after Alex.
Well, you might even get
easy. All right. Okay, Amara, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for talking to us about community, how to get engaged.
Right, yes.
Like we went on a tangent with mentorship.
It's a bit of tangent. Didn't get to
I appreciate everything you have to say. I think you have a really nice insider look as to what a founder feels and you have the other aspect of getting involved with the community and things like that. So I really appreciate everything you said today, and thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Of course.
For all the founders that are wanting to raise capital.
Yes.
Or about
Shameless
to raise
plug.
capital. Shameless
Let's
plug.
go.
EasyVC.
Yeah.
Come to me. We can talk about what that looks like, as well as how you need to be supported. Again, raising capital is not easy.
Do you have an email address that you want anyone to message you on?
That's terrifying.
Okay.
But sure, let's do it.
I like to say our viewership is high, but it really isn't. Like, we're doing decent. Like,
we're
not talking about 1,000 people coming to you with an email.
I'll give you the benefit of the doubt. If you're hungry enough to
email you, that's
directly,
true. There you go.
I appreciate that.
There
So
you
it's Amara, AMARA at EasyVC, the letters.org.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
And to everybody else at Founders Corner, thank you all for being here for another amazing episode. If you have any questions or comments, please let us know down below. Otherwise, subscribe. There's more episodes coming, especially with me and Amara. We're going to be talking about how I'm going to engage with a lovely mentor of some sort. And I'm going to take the plunge and do it. So stay tuned, see what happens.
All right.
I'm excited to see what happens. All right, guys. Thank you so much for your time, and we'll see you next time. Koridor out.